the legal profession, as far as I'm aware, relies on the reasonable person standard, and the practitioners, so lawyers and judges, are supposed to be free of bias. I mean that I mean they're not. If you're in trouble with the law and you go to a lawyer, he's biased toward, or she's biased towards you. But if the legal profession are now saying that their lawyers are inherently racist and sexist, I mean, that undermines the entire profession.
Well, and I would also say that that's actually the reason that this is being done, is to undermine the entire profession, because the meta story behind the postmodern and neo-Marxist activists is that everything about Western civilization is corrupt and oppressive and should be taken down to its, stripped down to its roots and rebuilt. And so the fact that the implicit message is, well, you can't trust the legal profession, is no problem for the people who are doing that, because that's exactly what they think. They think the entire edifice of Western law is nothing but a oppressive patriarchal construction, which is so appallingly backwards that it's almost beyond comprehension. I mean, I suppose compared to their utopian view, it's an oppressive structure, but compared to every other legal system in the world, it operates like a charm.
I think that's the view of the postmodernists and the activists, but I think there are sensible people who aren't familiar with postmodernism that go along with this stuff, and I see corporations and the legal societies implementing this unconscious bias training. I think a lot of it has to do with mitigating the risk of lawsuits, and then if they do get a lawsuit, for example, if someone wants to sue, a female employee wants to sue them for gender discrimination in the workplace, they can say, "Oh, well, we've had this bias training. We're trying to do the right thing." For example, Google now have a class action lawsuit against them. A handful of female employees are suing them for gender discrimination. They're saying that there is systematic gender discrimination because they were paid less than some male engineers that were hired at the same time that they were and were promoted more quickly. And so I think a lot of these policies are companies and corporations just trying to cover their backside when it comes to the threat of legal action.
I think that's right, and I think that's driven in the United States by legislation like Title IX, because that's held over, especially in educational institutions, which is where it primarily applies. That's held over their heads like the sword of Damocles, and it's been tremendously damaging. But the problem is for the corporations is that they're chasing away a small devil and letting a way bigger devil in at the same time. And so as a short-term solution, it's somewhat acceptable, but by participating in these mandatory unconscious bias retraining processes, they do two things. The first thing they do is admit their guilt, right? Pragmatically speaking, and that's a big mistake. It's a massive mistake to let someone accuse you of unconscious systematic racism and bias and then to allow yourself to be retrained, because you're basically admitting guilt. And I can't see that that's going to put them on a stronger legal ground moving forward.